Okay, in the first video, we quickly went over the requirements and the things you need to do to get this stuff all set up. So in this second video, let's go ahead and actually do that on a real system. So the first thing you're going to have to do is get prepared. So you're going to go to dcappcenter.cisco.com, where you are going to want to download a couple of things first. So the main one we want to talk about here is the Cisco Application Services Engine companion app that I mentioned in the first video. But while you are here, you might as well go ahead and download the Network Insights Advisor and Network Insights resources. You can see from DC App Center that these are suitable to deploy on APIC, but there are some limits if you do that, or on DCNM, or ultimately on SE, which is the Service Engines cluster, and that's exactly what we're going to do in order to get the full feature set of all of these applications in day 2 operations. So I've already gone ahead and downloaded all that, so let's go into APIC. What I've done is just like any other app in APIC, I've gone ahead and uploaded the Application Service Engines app, and all I have to do to get started here is click Enable, and in just a minute, it will be ready for me to go through the wizard. So as you can see here, I clicked Enable after installing, and this is what I get when I launch the app from APIC. So I'll go ahead and follow the wizard and click Setup. So what this is going to do is it is going to check a couple of things and then take you into the wizard. Now the first thing it's going to check is Fabric in-band connectivity. It checked, and apparently I failed that test, and I did that on purpose because what you need to do as the administrator here is set up some basic in-band connectivity already ahead of time before the wizard. This is the channel over which a lot of the telemetry and information will flow, and that's something that you are going to have to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and quickly push a script that configures that, and I'll show you what mine looks like real quick. But there's a config guide online for configuring standard vanilla in-band connectivity in APIC, and that's the guide you should follow. And then after that is ready, I'll go ahead and click Begin, and I can actually go and register the nodes. So really quickly, while this is not a tutorial on how to configure in-band IP connectivity in APIC, I just want to show you what my working example is like, just so you can be sure that yours looks something similar after you've gone through the config guide. So I'm in APIC and I'm under tenant management, and I just kind of expanded the number of things here that I've configured already ahead of time that you will have to go through with choices specific to your network. So here we've got a bridge domain called in-band. This is out of the box. I've chosen the subnet of 192.168.136.0/24, and that's been configured here. There's an address pool that's been configured. I basically gave APIC a range of addresses from that network to hand out to any leaf spines APICs that need an in-band IP address for all of this to work. Down here under Node Management EPGs, there's an in-band EPG that I have named in-band management EPG, and basically that's just getting that EPG all set up and ready to go. And then the final thing is actually assigning these IPs to all of my nodes. And so there's an address group here called inband_IP. And if you look, these are all of my APICs, leaves, and spines. And I can be rest assured that all of them have, in fact, an in-band IP. So that's just a quick working example. Again, you'll go through the config guide to get all of the steps about what you need to click and where, but I have already done that. So back here in the app, now that I've done in-band IP, I can go ahead and check again. And in fact, yeah, I've passed that test. So you want that check to be green before you go to the next step, where we will click Begin. And if you remember from my slides, there was a bunch of information that I had to choose ahead of time for the wizard to then take over and do all of the rest for me automatically. So I'll quickly pause the video, type in all of that stuff so you don't have to bother hearing me hit the keys, and then I'll explain each and every answer and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I filled in all of the variables that are unique to my lab, but let me quickly go through them so you know what we're working with. So I had to give it a name. Big deal, pick one that you like. Password is required. There are some minimum password strength requirements to be aware of. I've gone ahead and chosen that. The first real question that I have to answer is the Service Engine in-band management gateway. Remember, this should be different than any other in-band management networks that you might have going, i.e. the stuff that you saw me configure in my in-band management tenant before the manual stuff. You're going to need a different network here, and I've chosen 172.18.1.1/24. Then you need to map it to the in-band management EPG. Again, this came out of the management configuration that I did manually in the step just before this. In terms of the next question is you have to pick an application subnet. This is basically your Docker bridge. This was the default value. I'll just go ahead and keep it. And just note that this is just used for application communication inside the cluster for containers, so it doesn't go outside of the cluster itself. So you pick the one you want or take the defaults. The next one is the services subnet. Again, this is also a private address range that does not get advertised externally, but it's needed for all of these stuff to work. And in fact, this particular network was the sort of default suggestion from the wizard. So I just went ahead and said, yeah, I'll take it without really thinking about it. The last little bit here is a VLAN range. Now the default is 100 to 105 according to the wizard. I'm using 100 for something else, so make sure it's not overlapping. So I chose 101 to 106, but also make sure that you're not overlapping your infra VLAN for the whole ACI Fabric. Once you have all of that information, you can go ahead and click next. So in this screen, I'm just going to go ahead and add an NTP server, a domain name, and a DNS provider. So let me go ahead and add that. Notice you will have to actually click the green arrow for this to be committed, and I'll do the same thing for DNS as well. And click the green arrow, and it is all committed. And at this point, I can go in and save. And can you ignore this message? I screwed up a step earlier, but this message is basically just telling me I did something wrong in the step before, and I've already fixed that. So I am safe to click on save and continue. Okay, and in this final screen, everything is ready to go. I got 2 green tick boxes, and I can click on register nodes. Now, what's going to happen is APIC is the Fabric itself is seeing LLDP messages from the case member clusters here, and you can see that I have all 3. One of the things that you're probably going to want to do before you actually register these nodes is write down which serial number belongs to which application service engine member. So I'm going to go have to look that up real quick. Okay, it turns out that they were actually in order, so I'm going to go ahead and register each of these nodes and show you what happens. So I'm going to click on the button called register behind the first node in the list. Notice it brings up a new window where you'll have to give some indication of address and address management. Notice it also shows you where it's actually connected. So my leaf 1, leaf 2 on Ethernet 1/40. So I'll go ahead and fill in these values, and then we'll click on save. Okay, I've quickly filled in the values, so I've given it a name. Here is the in-band management IP address. If you remember from the step before, we had to pick a subnet that we could use here, and the little tip tells you that we need to pick a unique address from that range. And for node number 1, I've picked 1.10. For node number 2, I'll pick 1.20, and for node number 3, I'll pick 1.30. Then remember from the physical connectivity in video number 1, we had to put or connect the out-of-band management interface. We need to give that an address, so you are going to pick an address from your out-of-band network environment, and you will put that here, including the default gateway, and you're done with this node, and we can actually click save. I'm going to go ahead and quickly just configure the next 2 nodes. I'm not going to show that to you because it's the exact same thing, and when we come back, we'll actually show you that the process of discovering, registering, and adding the nodes is all going to be handled by the application itself. Okay, I've gone through and I've input all of the values for all 3 of the service engine cluster members. You can see that here, all of those kinds of things. You should see operational state go into discovering after a minute or 2. Be patient because all of this discovering and registration does take a little bit of time. The case node members will actually reboot, and servers do take some time to reboot these days. So go ahead and get a cup of coffee, and when we come back, we should see that all of these guys are fully recognized, registered, and discovered, and then I'll take you to the last step of installing the applications of Network Insights Advisor and resources. Okay, after so many minutes, you can see they moved into an operational state of active. We can very quickly click around a little bit and look at the topology. We can look at the dashboard. We can see that we've got 3. The case cluster is showing as available because it sees all 3, and we can see some information. I'm not going to go too much into these kinds of things. You can click around, and a lot of it is just basic information about the state and health of the cluster. But what I really want to go to next is actually installing the applications. There is one more thing actually though before I go to that, is this last little category here called Intersite. You are going to want to set this up with Intersite and make sure you're on the latest device connector. So I'll go ahead and update that now, and it will go ahead and do that. Now what will happen is there's a device ID that will show up and a claim code. You are going to log into intersite.cisco.com and go ahead and claim this as something in your particular account. Now the question you're probably asking is, Intersite, do I have to buy a license or something special from Cisco? No, you can use the free tier license that Intersite offers. So I'll quickly show you what that looks like in my particular account. Okay, so I've already logged into my own account at intersite.com. I've copied and pasted the device ID and the claim code, and all I have to do is click claim, and that's really all you do, and it is registered. And of course, back in the Application Services Engine companion app, you can see that everything is green, everything has been claimed, and this is what you want to do. Now, why did we do that? Well, one of the application's Network Insights advisor actually uses Intersite to get updates on pcerts, bugs, advisories, any kind of changing state information that you want to have the latest edition of, and that's how we do it, so it's quite important. Okay, now the next thing we want to do that our case cluster is in fact online and healthy and ready to go is actually upload Network Insights Resources and Network Insights Advisor, but to the case cluster. So I am looking at this in APIC. So I'm in APIC like I normally should be. I'm going to go under the admin tab and under the downloads sub-function. On the tab Service Engine here, you can go ahead and add a file to the service engine. Now we're going to be using, I think we have to use HTTP here. So I have a web server set up where I've got these two applications already sitting and ready to pull. So all I have to do is paste the URL in, click submit, and if I check the operational tab, we can see, not here, I guess it's starting and completed, and then we'll do the next thing with NIA as well. And we can see here that both of them have completed downloading. Now if I click over into the apps themselves, you can see it takes a minute or two for this to install and for those container services to all kind of spin up and get connected. So again, give it, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll actually enable these things. Okay, so I've gone ahead and fast forwarded. I installed, I took the liberty of clicking the enable for both advisor and for resources. And after some number of minutes, all of that has in fact completed. We can also go and check on the Service Engine app. If we click on the apps themselves, we see we've got those apps installed, they're active, and everything is settling down, and in just a minute they'll be ready to use. So I'm gonna end this video, and in the next video I'm just gonna do the first time basic setup of both of those applications, and then we'll kind of close out that series. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for video number 3.